Hi guys, here we are today with Kevin Riedel, founder at Wavect. Kevin, great to have you with us. How are you?
Hey, hi everyone. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to see what we are up to today.
Well, it's good to see you, and I'm looking forward to actually learning about Wavect. Again, another company in a very exciting growth sector, an area where we're seeing new money, new opportunity, and more than anything, actually, I think we're seeing new jobs. Um, what's your background and how have you ended up jumping into this sector?
Yeah, first of all, thanks for having me on. It's really an honor uh, being here today. I think my story was everything else than some kind of linear growth, something like that. Um, I would say I basically, or to give you a little bit of background, I started developing websites at the age of 13. And basically what I did at that time, as most 13-year-olds would do, go to these homepage builders, click some things together, being surprised, hey, what's that? Oh, it's HTML. If I delete it, the website is gone, right? All these kind of stupid mistakes and things. And quite rapidly, I tried to build my first business in some kind of sense, right? I really built out that website to be kind of like a universal, let's say, store for whatever, right? I had no niche. I basically put every topic on that website, which isn't the best idea, right? But I was very young. And that basically was the first moment where I got somehow into the tech space itself, and uh, also some first nuances to how to build something from scratch, right? At that time, I had no really zero focus and reason to monetize it. So it wasn't a business at all. Right? It was really just more like learning, creating a personal brand. If you can't do that at that age, right? And sooner or later, I really got interested in bleeding edge technologies, right? Which means I really came from a very generalistic approach. I tried everything, right? Which isn't good as well in general, if you're speaking that way. But I got my hands on a very high level on quantum computing, mobile apps, web development, as you know, and at some point also blockchain, right? And yeah, I played around all these kind of things, but again, had no clear vision goal besides learning something new. And I think that was always some kind of a strength, but also a weakness because I wasn't very focused at that point, right?
What compelled you to set up a business at 13? And again,
Sorry?
what compelled you to set up a business at such a young age, at 13?
Uh, as said, it wasn't really a business. I just tried to build something
Well, fine, yeah,
valuable.
fine. But
That's cool.
where did
Yeah.
that come from? Like, what was that side that you thought you tried to build something?
I think very simple reason. I moved to a new school, new place, right? Had at that stage almost no friends and nothing. So at some point, one of my classmates at that time introduced me to website building, and that's when I got started, right? Because I had not much to do outside of school,
Sure.
and I really got like a true nerd, you know. I really was the nerd at school, and
Were you any good at it
yeah.
in terms of the website building at a young age? Was it something that you naturally gravitate towards it? Well, no, look, because it's interesting. So many people that we speak to that have founded their own tech company or founded their own business in any industry, they largely started at a really, really young age. And it's just quite
Hmm.
interesting to understand. I've got to be honest, my first business was probably, I was like 9, 10 years old washing cars, but that's not really a business, right? Well, they're saying that actually, it was easier making money washing cars than it is in the world of tech. But that said, like there's something, it's a very technical thing that you were attempting at a very, very young age. And it's just quite interesting. Was there someone that pulled you into it? Was there someone that taught you about it beforehand?
You mean how to build websites or a
Like
business
who,
itself?
who taught you? Who taught you all of these things?
Basically, I just got shown a website builder page, and that's it. I just thought, okay, that's cool. I can make my own website, and at some point, I really built a cool or great audience. At that point of time, I had around 1,000 visitors, unique visitors per day, which
Well,
is crazy, right? But
why
since
didn't
I
why
had,
didn't you continue to build it though? If you had 1,000, why didn't you continue with that?
well, I did for 4 years or something like that. But it was really like it looked really, really, really bad. Super, super slow. I got also one of the main reasons why I stopped with all that was I was mobbed. I think if that's the right
Right. Yeah.
naming in English.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's I continued a few years despite that. But at some point, you just think, you know,
Yeah, you outgrow it and you want to try new things and you're young, that's it. I mean,
yeah,
and again, talking about being young, blockchain itself as an industry is nothing short of a baby. We're obviously seeing like new technologies emerge all the time. We're also seeing existing technologies being used in new ways.
yeah.
I actually think in some ways it's actually far more exciting. I mean, what is your take on blockchain as an industry, in terms of the technology, and really, what's your opinion on the future of this technology?
That's a super interesting question. Blockchain is already there for around 10 years, right? So basically, if you take around the single pieces of it, it's even there for a little bit longer, right? But I would say I see a super large potential in the technology in general, right? Besides all that NFT use cases that just arose in the last 1 or 2 years, but also the things that people in majority talked about in 2017, 16, 18, and so on, which resolves around identity, logistics, things like that, like really tracking things in a let's say in a way that it supports data integrity, right? That you can build trustless systems. And I really see it coming that many business will use blockchain to some kind of extent, but I'm also not one of those people that say blockchain is the solution to everything, because it isn't. But it really can do a lot of amazing things, especially when we add, for example, NFTs or
Like,
tokens to it.
what amazing things do you think it can do?
One of the very simple use cases that are really dominant right now is that whole customer, let's say, incentivation loyalty programs, right? Which means people are rewarded or able to buy NFTs from a brand they love, and the company or the brand is then able to engage with their true fans on a level that wasn't possible in such a uniform way before, right? And also that kind of interoperability aspect where people can actually sell and buy assets in general. The whole DeFi space, decentralized finance, is also something that I definitely see coming, because it reduces uh, the entrance barrier for new actors. It makes things way more effective and efficient in terms of how many fees you have to pay when you raise a lot of funds, and how to do that maybe in future even from a legal standpoint, and all that kind of things.
And in terms of like Wavect, as a company, I think, I mean, even and I were discussing this like beforehand, like it's a hard space to build any type of new company. What is the origins really of Wavect? And again, what is it that you're really trying to achieve here?
Yeah, the origin of Wavect is also, I would say, quite special because I'm really coming from the startup world, basically, right? I got asked several years ago to join a blockchain decentralized identity startup at that time. And the first thing I did was I denied, right? I said, no, I'm not interested. I don't think that has potential. And half a year later, a friend of mine that had more background knowledge around the whole space at that time approached me and said, hey, there's a startup I need to join. And funnily, it was the same guy, right? So yeah, I joined. And quickly around that time, I really understood the concept of building companies, right? Or get some basic understanding from it, right? How to actually launch a startup, and decided to launch my own one, Wavect, right? But at that time, it wasn't really a blockchain startup. It was more like a social tech company, um, which also went around 2 years and failed for various reasons.
What
And
I've got to ask on that. Sorry, why? When you say various reasons, and again, you're
uh,
talking to
yeah,
someone who has mastered failure. Um, if I
that's
could
great.
write the best book on failure and on failing in business, and you know what? It wouldn't sell one copy. That's how good I am. So common,
Uh,
and it's
love it.
interesting because a lot of the people that a lot of the people that are part of the Raion community, I think it's about 15-20% now. They're looking to build their own startup, or they're actually in the middle of that journey themselves. What failed? Like, why did it fail?
Yeah, there were many reasons actually. You know, when you found a startup, you usually have to have that super strong mindset, right? You can't stop because of some problems you encounter, because then nobody would found anything or any great company, right? So, but still, there were some things that I did from the ground up wrong, right? Starting from how to actually create a good business model, a sustainable business model, right? Because what we did was we had a 17 pages business plan, really elaborated. We thought about everything, right? Really. And that made the business model so complex, so hard to comprehend, to explain actually, right? Which was the first major issue, right? We every time we did an elevator pitch, people were more confused than before. And usually when you do a pitch, right, the best questions that you can get afterwards is how expensive is it? For example, right? Because people understood it and want to know what's the price, right? But our questions were always, okay, so how does it work? How is that? And so on.
I
So
can counter that. I've got to say that when we actually had our first startup, our first iteration, it was when blockchain and crypto, it was very, very young. And I was, the taxonomy wasn't there. Do you know what I mean? Like the language wasn't
mhm,
there. So rather than just build one platform, which is now Raion, I had broken it down into 6 separate platforms, which were
mhm.
part of a much larger ecosystem, because it made it far simpler to explain it to people. But then I was going to people and they were like, okay, I don't understand this. So what is it? Is it a partnerships business? Is it a logistics company? Is it a social media platform? Like, what is it? And I think that what's interesting, you said you had a 17-page business plan.
70.
70. Who wrote it?
Yeah,
Did you write
me?
it yourself? Oh wow.
More
Yeah,
like a book.
big mistake.
Yeah, it's more, yeah, exactly. It's more like a book. But you know what's interesting? So with us, Jan and I, we've written so many pitch decks and so many business plans. Like now, we don't even bother. We almost had to realize you spend the first couple of years and it's bullshit. You just write business plans, you write pitch decks. Don't do it. It's a waste of time. work out the problem, work out how to actually solve those problems, and go out there and actually get sales. That's it. Don't worry. If you're so, we spent, I'm trying to think, I think we spent 2 weeks doing like Y Combinator, Sequoia Arc applications. And one of the guys that we were working with, he was like, more experienced in business, he was like, stop, just stop, forget it. Like, forget these companies, they're not going to invest in you. It's too early. And the reality is that your time, and it's that cost, right? There's a cost. Everything costs time. And we just agreed, right, that's it. No more applications. We now have a page on on the platform. It's an investor page. It has everything. If you want to invest in us, just go there. It's even got our Y Combination Sequoia Arc applications. In fact, it's even got our company accounts, and it's got our costs. So you know exactly what we're spending on a month-by-month basis. And if any serious investors want to look at us, they're going to take the time to go there. I'm not speaking to them otherwise.
And that's an interesting approach. Really like it, to be honest, because as you might know, many investors go into talks without a serious intention, right? So
most investors are just full of shit. They're not actual investors, and that's something. And that's something that I think is really important to get across here. And I really want to hone in on that point. Most investors aren't investors. There are phenomenal companies out there. There are Y Combinators that can simply change your business. There are Sequoia Arcs that will give you an opportunity like no one else. But for the most part, you are talking to companies that A, don't care, B, they're just salespeople, right? And C, they don't understand the problem that you're trying to solve. And we spend so much time trying to talk to them about the problem, when in actual fact, just focus on the sales, because that's all that really matters. That's all anyone cares about. How fast can you sell your product? What is the size of the addressable market? What are you doing differently, right? And even what are you doing differently, they don't really care. They just want to see if the sales are there. And do you know what? They're right. That's how it should be. They shouldn't be. And one mistake, actually, in the fintech and blockchain space is it's been so easy to raise money.
Too easy.
Too easy. How many of these companies are going to be there in 1, 3, 5, 10 years?
Not much, definitely. Maybe 1%. I don't know. Let's see.
It will be interesting. But again, so sorry, going back to Wavect then. So you've been writing 70-page business plans. Have you been pitching it at all to investors? You have. And what was the main feedback that they had in terms of, you say they were confused even more so after your pitch than?
The thing was, when investors actually read the business plan, we actually got really good feedback. They said, wow, it's not like a bullshit business plan where nothing is in there, right? It was really, there were some really interesting things, right? We even had, as you said, things around market penetration strategy, everything, right? The major issue really was that every time we got feedback, we adjusted or changed the way we pitch, right? You have to think of, we were a social tech startup, and for many investors and even for the government, when they issue grants, for example, right? We were either too social with our business model or we were too commercial. And so either way, we always jumped between those two concepts. And then we, since we were building a platform at that time, we also had to jump between the actual customers, the businesses itself. Then we had the users, right? Users' perspective when we pitch to a larger audience.
Oh.
And then we even had B2G, to governments, right? And that made it so complex and complicated. Nobody
Did you get anywhere with that?
No.
So we went to I went to the British Parliament about 4 or 5 months ago, and they didn't understand a thing. And by this point, by the way, we've obviously we've simplified what we're doing. I wasn't going there for
Frustrating.
money. I was much more going to talk about actually the problem we're solving and how we're solving it. I was talking about how we're
That's
looking
the
to
way.
attract the best talent to the UK from all around the globe and giving them the opportunity to build millions of new companies, right? Global companies. They did
Mhm.
not care and they did not understand it. And
Yeah,
that's the
it really
problem.
has to be super simple. Sorry.
But it was super simple. Super simple isn't the issue. You've got to be super well connected. And if you don't know, if you're not one of their
That's
friends,
true, yeah.
they're only investing in their friends. They're
Yeah.
only investing in that, and they're investing in companies that really are not scalable. Like that's what we have in the UK anyway. Like, is it different in Austria or?
No way. Austria is even very known for, how you say, that friendship economy, right?
Sure.
So that's unfortunately a big thing, and I see it all the time.
One thing I want to say for anyone that is actually looking to start raising their money, they have to actually read a book called Fundraising by Raion Breslow. Easy read. I think it could save you pretty much months, if not years. And it's something whereby actually we scrapped everything we were doing. We followed exactly what Raion Breslow was telling us to do. And I have to say that actually when we were with investors, we had much more meaningful meetings. And
Mhm.
it was something whereby actually we've now been able to forge real strong relationships with VCs and private equity firms. But again, you have to be able to decipher good information from bad information, and you have to realize that most of these people, they're clueless and they're not real investors. And I think that's the problem.
Yeah, it's definitely an issue to get to the right people, and then you still have to be interesting enough for them, right? They need to understand it, as you said, and they need to see the potential, right? They need to like the team and all these kind of things.
So go on. So sorry. So I kind of like digress somewhat. But so you've started with these business models, and then where have you guys made the jump? What was that step over where all of a sudden it starts really? You start understanding what you're doing wrong and what you need to do to actually grow Wavect.
Yeah, basically, I killed the old Wavect. I said to the team, "Hey, we started completely wrong. The market doesn't seem to be ready yet. It starts to be ready now because we see what we try to build is incentivation for global good, which means environment, solidarity, or health. Right? We try to incentivize people to do something for the environment. Right? And that's what we see now with NFTs. And I know also some projects that do something very similar what we did back at that time. Right? So the market seems to be ready now. It wasn't really ready at that time. And yeah, basically, I then made the switch to blockchain and said, let's go all in. Right, I really love it. Since I was trading and investing on the stock market like most people do. Before that, I really found the concept around decentralized finance, DeFi, super interesting, and that got me even deeper into the rabbit hole. Right, and yeah, that was the moment where I said, okay, let's reuse the brand, the trademark, and build from scratch again. I did it that time alone because one of the major things also at that time was we were a large team and getting to consent was a nightmare, right? That's really one of the most significant advice I could give, in my humble opinion. Be really careful how many people and who your team members are that join, because if they have a different vision, what they want to build, right, then it doesn't work. And yeah, I started alone, and now I'm going from that standpoint, right? So that worked quite well.
Have you had any major clashes with business partners or any significant moments that have changed your business or changed you as a
Um,
business person, more importantly?
I would say something that most people have to learn when they're getting in the startup world. I overworked myself to, I would say, almost to, I don't know, nirvana, if you say that in English. I really, basically, I even lost some hair, right? I really worked so to such an extreme
You're
extent.
doing okay. You're
I'm
doing
okay now. Yeah.
I've lost some hair. Yeah.
No worries, man. You're good. But it was really so extreme that I even had, that was another reason to stop from a health concern point of view, right? And yeah, so basically, I don't know. I don't think it was a true burnout, but if it wasn't, it was really directly on the edge because I couldn't move for at least 1 month. I really just laid in the bed and did nothing. Couldn't even get to the remote control for the TV. It was crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, Kevin, I have to ask, when you talk about building your team and, being cautious about who you bring in and stuff, how have you approached recruitment, being a startup, especially with, people like seasoned developers, they're difficult to get hold of. I really want to know how you've approached that.
Great question. What I basically want to do is I try to, I think what you can see on LinkedIn, I really try to build a brand, not just a personal brand, but also a company brand. And I think building something that people really like really creating a workplace where people are sharing their vision that you have, like really a similar mindset in terms of where they want to go, right? That I think works quite well because it's always better to have very few people joining your company, but those people are highly motivated, right? If you have that, I think you won. And that's why I don't really hire seasoned developers. I really more go for permanent or even business partners or partnerships, long-term partnerships, things like that, to actually be able to build that kind of culture and connection with them.
Okay, so you would rather people that haven't really experienced a business culture, so you can almost like involve them in your culture rather than someone that's been seasoned, from my understanding.
With seasoned, you mean they're just here temporarily?
No,
right?
what I mean by seasoned is someone that's experienced in the role.
Oh, okay. So that was a language barrier now. Sorry for that.
Sorry about
that. Yeah, sure. My business partner, for example, is highly experienced. I actually don't really care how much experience you have. For me, it's mostly around the mindset, right? If you really want to learn and what is your motivation, and when that is a match, then everything else usually gets into place as well. Because if you hire a super junior developer who has no idea about developing software, but he or she is highly motivated, really has a passion for it, give them a couple of months and probably she might be your best employee. Right? And that's how I view things.
When I met Jan, one of my co-founders, I gave him a task to. I couldn't tell. I realized very early on that he was brilliant, and he largely is. He's the brains behind what we do. I get a lot of the credit for it, but none of it exists right without him, without his developer mindset, without his business mindset. I gave him a task to do. I said, look, put together a proposal as to how you think we should build the platform. I kid you not, he put together, and this is no exaggeration, I think it was about a 60 to maybe 80-page document. It was thick, of exactly how we need to go about actually developing the platform. And it wasn't, there was no nonsense in it. It was no like emotive language. It was purely logical. This is what we need to do. This is how we're going to build it. And here are the people that we need to do it. And I think that when
Wow.
you have that in your bit, yeah, wow. It's like, you know, it's one of those, it was one of those moments where I've looked down at my lottery ticket and realized that I've won. No, but do you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I think that when you find someone like that and you're able to like bring them into your business, it's a game changer.
It is. Yeah, 100%. You can't hire that many employees to get to that point.
You know what? Honestly, in terms of Jan, I actually think he does the work of probably about 7 or 8 people.
I can imagine.
So efficient with his time, so efficient. I mean, but again, like starting on recruitment. I mean, what is it that attracts then people to your company, to Wavect? What are you saying to them? Like, why are they saying, actually, I want to be part of Wavect?
I think most comes down to, for sure, blockchain is super exciting, right? That makes it much easier. That's the first thing. But secondly, we just published 1 month ago a job ad on my personal LinkedIn. We posted a meme, basically. I'm not sure if you have seen it, where I sit here on my table and say, there was that subtitle, "Didn't sleep for 3 days." And my business partner looked above the camera, you know, in a funny way and said, "Kev, we need more devs," right? And that got so much traction, basically. And we couldn't even answer to all, also we did answer at some point, sure, but there was so many qualified applications. And since that, we are really pushing on education, branding, trying to give back to people. That's the main reason that people said when applying to us, they really like what we do, what we stand for, that we want to build something meaningful. And I think that's something that newer generations, especially, right, Gen Z and things like that, or people like that, value the most. At least that's what I experienced.
Yeah, I have to say, I actually have, I agree with you. I think that there's 2 sides to it. I think there's an older generation who have made a lot of money at a very young age. They've done well, and now they're like, right, it's time to give back. And I think particularly with the younger generation, I'm sure Eben can comment better on this than I can, but there seems to be a clear path of wanting to do something for the world. And a lot of the time I don't buy it, if I'm honest. And, you know, I'll interview some people and I'll call them out on it, right?
Mhm.
But I think that the intention is there.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Sorry.
I mean,
please.
no, I mean, 100%. I mean, just to give you some perspective on my generation, I think a lot of the people I speak to my age have sort of like seen what past generations have done and have questioned it and do want to sort of make it right. How genuine those concerns are, we'll see in due time. You know, actions speak louder than words, right? But what I can say is, like, especially with someone like myself, you know, working for a startup is, I can't recommend it enough, because, you know, as an individual, you can make the most impact. As soon as the first time I spoke to Lawrence, the first thing he spoke about was the values of the company and what they're trying to achieve, you know, way before anything like monetary attachment or career development, etc. There 100% is a selfish element to everything that you do, but there's an overarching goal that I resonated with, and that's what gets me up every morning, you know, working, and that's the difference.
There's a passion, right, in startups that you're not going to get anywhere else.
Yeah.
Because there's someone that has very simple, like you said, Kevin. There's someone that has gambled their life. They've actually gambled. There's at least one person that's gambled their life, and they've gone, actually, I'm going to just put everything into this. If I lose everything, so be it. If I lose everything, I'm just going to keep working. And I'm going to work it out. Like, genuinely, I know it sounds ridiculous, but you can see how black my eyes are. My eyes never used to get this black. My eyes are now black, and it's from all the hours, it's from the stresses that come with building a startup. And I think I'm not trying to. I think from an outside perspective, it's probably quite interesting. Do you know what I mean? To come and I've never done it in this way where I've seen someone gamble everything, but it's probably quite interesting to be like a team member or an employee in that environment. Do you know what I mean? And just be like, I'm working for someone that's gambled everything because they believe in something so much.
Yeah,
So
100%. It's pure energy if done right.
How much have you sacrificed, Kevin, to be a part of Wavect?
Basically, it was really a crazy story. I just quit my job. Also, I didn't just quit, right? There was a lot of preparation, really a lot. I thought I have some clients and everything. I felt good. And suddenly, when the date where the actual work, the non-self-employed work ended, I realized that these weren't really customers, right? I hadn't the contract yet. And yeah, I was there, no customers, no money, nothing. Standing there, and I stood there and thought, well, what now?
Yeah.
And yeah, I think you can start a business in many ways, right? If it's service-based, product-based, whatsoever. But what everyone has to do to jump at some point of time, right? There won't be, or in very rare cases, you make yourself self-employed or an entrepreneur in a safe environment right off the start, right? Usually it really starts really difficult and won't get any easier for a really long time, right? But I think that's part of the process to get that problem solving skills, right?
Mm.
I don't know how you
are
feel. Thomas.
you in favor? Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, sorry, I just asked how do you view it? How was
Well,
it
no,
for you?
okay, so the way I see it is most people should never start their own company. Genuinely, it's not. Most
Agree.
people should not do it. It's not, and I think that it's something where you will, if it fails, it will ruin your life, and even if it succeeds, you have to push yourself to a point where you could actually just have a complete nervous breakdown, like you'll go insane. And I think that for most people, just stay away, get a job, have an easier life. I really do believe that. I don't think most people have got the temperament that is required. I think that when I first started, I didn't have the temperament, right? I was actually, I think with my first company, and actually we were quite successful, but I was too aggressive. I was shouting. I was just a prick, like a lot of the time. But I was just an absolute machine. But I also brought on, I think, 270 clients, paying clients, profitable clients in our first year. So yeah, because we kind of worked out how to create our own like internal like network effect, right? Within it was in the property industry, but I think that for most people, it will just destroy their lives. I don't think they've got the ability to. I think that one thing that we've done really poorly in society is we've romanticized what it means to start a company. I think shows like Dragon's Den, shows like Shark Tank, how many of those deals on Shark Tank and Dragon's Den go through? How many of those deals that actually go through make money?
You're idolizing figures like Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk. Also has a huge play in that. I mean, everyone knows them, and the sacrifice. They are, but that's kind of not being addressed in communication. There's a lot of sacrifice that goes behind all of the things that they've achieved, and those things aren't being glamorized. It's the end result. It's not the journey. People need to start enjoying the journey rather than the end goal. And then
you can't. There is honestly, you even see firsthand what we go through. Do you think Jan and I, you see those WhatsApp messages coming through 3 in the morning? Do you think we enjoy it? Listen, we have a lot of fun. But it's head down and dig, right? Like sleeping on the floor and working 20 hours a day.
Selling your house.
Selling my house, it's all part of it. Like Kevin, you're laughing. Like I guess you kind of that feeling, right?
I can't say how much I agree with you too. Really, founding a company is no joke, right? You really need to really want it, and not just because it's cool on social media to write entrepreneur or something like that.
I
You
hate
should
that
really
word.
be in there. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the other thing is that actually, everyone goes on about you have to work out how to solve a problem. You don't. You have to work out how are you going to sell your product, right? What are you going to do to get in front of those decision makers? And again, I think things like LinkedIn, and I think LinkedIn is a phenomena, right? But I must get 10 emails a day saying, hey, I've got some like lead generation tool or something, and for me, I believe personally, the way you get sales is through building relationships.
Agree.
I think you have to. I don't think any AI, any like machine learning or technology is gonna, change that. It's not, because unless you're selling like a product like what Amazon sells products,
Yeah.
But I think that business to business is still largely, and investment and funding is largely about who you know and how much they like you. And once you get in front of them, then it's how good is your product. But to
Agree.
get to that point, you've got to be a badass. You've got to be a complete badass to get to that point. And then when you get to that point, you've got to know exactly what you're doing and how you're going to benefit that client, because they're not going to buy a product if it's just one or two times better. It's got to be 1,000 times better.
Yeah, those switching costs basically for companies or users themselves is nothing to neglect, right? That's what many startups get wrong, right? They think it's better in that kind of sense there, but why should anyone take the hassle and switch to your platform or do that, right? Yeah, usually they don't.
I mean, pulling it back somewhat, like in terms of like Wavect, like what are the next steps for you guys?
Right now, we're scaling our service-based business and are already developing our first product. But that's the plan for this year, and yeah, I would say also next year, to really get to a point where I would say get a little bit back of our time, maybe, right? As you said, working the whole day until 12 a.m. or something like that, that every day, that's not sustainable, right? That's what I learned from one of my first startups, basically. You really have to take care of yourself, long term at least. Short term periods are no problem, right? That is unavoidable, but you can't hustle through over years and years and years. At some point, you're down, right? And that's when it ends. And I would say one of my main biggest visions is building one of the strongest brands with, at least in my nation, in Austria, around a blockchain software business, right? So Austria is quite small. I think that's very much achievable, but that's at least a midterm, long-term goal to actually be that company, that regard.
On that, Kevin, look, it'll be exciting to see how you guys go on your journey. I really thank you very much for your time today. Kevin Riedel at Wavect. Good to have you with us today. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Likewise.